Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Only one type of burger. For every pallet. Fries are extra. Large in size. We've got the shakes. Going over the brim.
Hey, this is Chris from JCW's. Put a positive, delicious spin on your day at any one of our 5 locations. In Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, or Harriman. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the program. Your local trusted financial fiduciaries. All you have to do is go to their website, TrajanWealth.com. That's TRAJAN Wealth.com. Joining us on the program right now, Matt McConnell. He is the television play-by-play voice and face of the Utah Mammoth. And these have been some dicey games coming down the stretch here, Matt. I know you've been calling a lot of hockey for a lot of years. We aren't used to playoff hockey. We haven't felt that yet. And it's feeling a little bit more and more like that every day here, because it feels like this Mammoth team is fighting for their life for that WC1 spot. So your thoughts on that, and welcome to the program.
You know what? I appreciate that. You know what, guys? This is only the beginning. Get ready. Your
Oh boy.
You know, your gut starts to feel queasy. You're going through this whole thing. You're wondering. You're looking at both sides. You're kind of projecting. You're looking at the standings. You're looking at, who Nashville's playing, the next game, and this is all pretty normal stuff. So you know what, the playoffs in hockey are so great,
yeah.
and I mean the goal certainly is wild card one, because there's no easy track, right? You eventually got to play everybody, but wild card one would certainly offer, in my opinion, anyways, a better track, because it would push the Mammoth into the Pacific Division side of the bracket, instead of having to play the best team in hockey right off the top, in the first round. So it's all part of the ride. Get used to it, because if they get into the playoffs, the city's going to be crazy.
It is going to be crazy, and I can't wait for it. And we're so close to getting there. But last week was kind of that roller coaster we're talking about, where you have this game against the Oilers that's frustrating, and then the 3-1 lead against the Capitals, and Ovechkin blows that up, and you're like, what's going on with the team? And then they go down to L.A., and they just absolutely dominate. You're along the ride just like the rest of us. What did you learn about the team over the last week, the highs and lows of just this last 7-day period?
Well, you know what? I think they got a lesson when the Capitals were here, and the lesson was, don't get dragged into the stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had a 3-1 lead. They got dragged into the stuff. Brandon Tanev and Tom Wilson and everybody kind of getting involved. And you're up 3-1. You don't need to do that. There's I mentioned this to Dom Moore when we were doing the game in LA on Saturday, I guess it was. And, I said, Dom, I said, I know hockey players have long memories. and what I meant by that was, worry about it next season. Worry about getting back at, whoever it might be down the road, because the games are just so critical. So then the game in LA that I just referenced, they were as good as I've seen them defensively. They were really opportunistic offensively. And I think when this team has success, guys, they just go out there and they play. They don't overthink the game. They're one of the fastest teams in the league. They just go out and make plays. And defensively, I thought they were really buttoned up. Andre Tourigny, the head coach, always talks about connectivity, right? And that's that starts at the goal line. That's the breakout. That's getting into the zone, getting set up. You name it. Everybody, whether you're a defenseman, a forward, the goaltender, even on the back end, everything has to be connected to have success. And they were as good as I've seen all season long in all aspects of the game in LA. which is really encouraging because they were undisciplined Thursday night against Washington. And the other side story was it looks like Karel Vejmelka got his swagger back a little bit too, because they were, they had a bit of a push in the third period, and he was able to keep them at bay. And those are all good signs pointing into the game Thursday in Seattle.
Matt, when you see this team, obviously where they are in the standings, and like you said, we're looking at the Preds behind them. You look at all the other teams, and you go, lose another game, please. So this team could keep going. But as we watch this kind of come to a head here in the next few games, and single-digit games left. At the trade deadline, the Mammoth added Mackenzie Weegar. We had Mackenzie on last hour, and we chatted with him about. And this is an interesting mix of the youth and of veterans. And obviously, Bill Armstrong is thoughtful about moves that you make, especially late in the year, and prior to the trade deadline. When you bring a guy in like that, what is the purpose of him? Obviously, number one is to play really, really good defense. But I feel like when you bring in a guy who's been in the league a long time, what does that add to a locker room like this?
Well, it's all about stability. It's all about leadership. Mackenzie has been terrific. And, here's a few stats I'll throw at you. Since coming to Utah, he is now first on the team in making defensive plays. He's first on the team in denials in the defensive zone. He's number one on the team in block passes, and he's also number one in the league in recovering number one on the team, I should say, in recovering loose pucks. So he's been terrific with Mikhail Sergachev as that top pairing. He's also a really good defenseman in terms of stretch passes. Just keeping the play moving up the ice, whether it's a pass from his defensive zone into the neutral zone to kind of key the rush. He's just been very, very good at that, not only here, but throughout his career. And he's a good person. Like he seems to have fit like a glove. And what that also does too, and there's a term in hockey called slotting, right? How does it affect everybody else? Well, now you can put Mackenzie Weegar down or you can put Sean Dursey on the third pairing with Ian Cole, and that creates great matchups in the third pairing area, right? So he touches the games in a lot of different ways. He can be a power play guy, which he has been on power play too. Shortly after his arrival, he can kill penalties. He can play 5-on-5. He's been absolutely terrific. And you bring up Bill. Bill has never really been a home run guy when it comes to acquisitions. I think he's more interested in the fit and how it affects the rest of the group, and he's done very, 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 very well in that. If you look at free agency, which begins on July 1 in the NHL, Bill will sign guys, but he will never mortgage the future to give up a lot of assets to acquire the bright, shiny object that's, the big free agent, right? And I think his discipline has really helped the entire roster and the entire organization of building depth, yet not having to give away a lot of pieces of their future. They made that deal with Weegar. They did give up 3 second-round draft picks, but they didn't give up T.J. Ginla. They didn't give up Caleb Denoye. They didn't give up any of their top 7 prospects. So it was kind of a win-win. It helps Calgary because Calgary's rebuilding. They're looking to the future, but it really helps Utah from the standpoint of having a real good stabilizer and creator on the back end. And, there are a lot of cups on that back end with Ian Cole and Nate Schmidt and John Marino and such. So it's just been a really good fit.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
One of the heroes of that Saturday game was Alexander Kerfoot, and it's, we haven't thought about him much because he hasn't played a lot this year, but when he has, he's really had impact. Now that he's back healthy, playing like he did against L.A., how big of a factor could he be down the stretch and into the postseason as a veteran on this club?
Yeah, he could be a really big factor. And, it's funny because he came back and he played a few games and then he got hurt again. Mm-hmm. And then he was out a little longer and then came back. But even after he came back the second time around, guys, he wasn't firing. He wasn't, he had missed so much time and missed training camp at the beginning of the season. He didn't have his swagger and his quickness back more than anything. And I would say about 8-9 games ago, he looked like the old Alexander Kerfoot from a year ago. In terms of his impact, you can play him anywhere. He had some time with Schmaltz and Keller recently. You can play him on the wing. You can play him in the middle. Doesn't matter who you have out there. He can play top line, fourth line, anywhere in the middle. He's kind of like one of those pocket knives, right? He's just he's a gadget guy that can fit anywhere, and he's been absolutely terrific. I mean, I got to mention he went to Harvard every once in a while just to keep Dominic more happy. When I talk to Alex and Dom, I just ask them, hey, look, I went to a state school. Can you just talk a little slower so I can understand? I got to do all that stuff, but but he's been great.
Matt McConnell, he's the television play-by-play voice, of course, of the Utah Mammoth. He and Dom Moore. Dom doesn't just have the Harvard background. He's got the hair to match on TV. It's a tough guy to sit next to, Matt, right?
You know what he's got? He's got that vest, right? He's got that.
Yeah.
He's got that zip-down thing. Sometimes I think I'm sitting next to Mr. Rogers.
With the cardigan. Boom.
He's got the cardigan going. He's got the, I asked him, there was a game about, I shouldn't say this in case any of the big bosses are listening, but there was a Saturday afternoon game about a month ago. And I said, why don't we just kind of go casual? It's the afternoon. Let's see if anybody says anything. Like if they do, we won't do it again. But so nobody said anything. And so I was all excited the next afternoon game. I'm like, hey, before it, I said, hey, we're going to kind of do what we did that last game. He's like, I got to be honest with you, Matty. I didn't like the look. And I go, what? Come on. What? It beats wearing a tie and a shirt and a suit and everything. And he goes, I don't know. Just didn't like the look. So,
it's not like you rolled up with a Buc-ee's gas station T-shirt on. I mean, come on. Like
with mustard stains on it.
I would assume you guys still look pretty dialed in. Like I said, you're pretty tough to look. As long as you have the Mammoth pin on, then we know what your job is. Come on. So, as you guys get ready for this thing and 8 games left, like what's the reality of what a performance has to be for this team? I'm not asking you to give me a record exactly what they need to do, but like in 8 games, where does that point threshold probably need to be for them to feel comfortable about not just staying in the wild card, but staying in that wild card 1 spot?
Well, I think we're looking at like 91. Somewhere in that range, right? And what are they at? 82 now, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think 9 more points, and it'll be, they'll look pretty good. The thing is, though, there's 2 things. It keeps ratcheting up, right? Like so in the regular season, you get out of the All-Star break, you get on the backside of that, or in our case, the Olympic break this year. And it starts ratcheting up, and then when you're coming down the home stretch, it ratchets up even more, and teams are playing desperate, and the other thing too is teams are playing each other, right? So some teams are elevating, other teams are kind of getting knocked down a peg or two. The one wild card in hockey this time of year is what they call the 3-point game. So if you're if the game goes to overtime, that's the worst. Like if Nashville and Seattle were playing, or Nashville, I think, is playing the Kings in a night or two, if that game goes to overtime, then one team's going to get 2, the other team's going to get 1, and they're both teams that are chasing the Mammoth and at this point Nashville and everybody else. So, you got to keep that in mind. But yeah, it just keeps getting harder and harder, and that's why veterans like Mikhail Sergachev and Nate Schmidt and Ian Cole and these guys that have been through the playoff wars and won Stanley Cups, they're going to be so key to the rest of the group because, the other thing you got to remember is a lot of the core guys, the high-end guys, the Kellers, the Schmaltz, the Coolies, the Gunthers, have either not played in the postseason yet in their career, or they played very, very few games. Even Keller and Schmaltz, great players that they are. So it's a real learning process to get in, and then once you get in, holy smokes, that first round, it's something else.
We can't wait for that. And Alexander Kerfoot had an interesting comment after the Kings game. He was asked about bouncing back from the last week's struggles, and he says, well, the nice thing about that is we got a lot of young guys in here that don't have a lot of battle scars. So to your point now, talking about the playoffs coming up, and this team does lack some experience on one end, but they've also got guys that have the cup on the other. Is the lack of battle scars good for some of these young guys because they're just going to go out and play? I don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Or you've been in this league a long time. Just how important is experience among your top-line guys as you go into the playoffs?
Well, I'll put it this way. They don't know what they don't know right now, but if they make it and they get into that first round, they're going to start to know.
Yeah, they better figure it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're going to start to know what it's all about. But having, and that was all part of the, I was talking about Bill Armstrong earlier. That was all part of the roster construction, the fact that you need guys that have gone through it to kind of lead the way to help the younger guys. And the whole thing about you don't know what you don't know, I do think that's a bit valid. Just go out and play the game, right? And I think everybody's done a great job. The other thing too is, wild card one's the goal, obviously. So why not? Why not just go get it? I mean, you finish a season, you take a couple weeks off, and then you start training, and all that time and all that effort and all those games and practices, see it through. And I think they can do that. I really do. And I think especially if they get wild card one, I think they could make some noise in the postseason. So it sets up for a lot of fun over the next few weeks, hopefully.
Matt, I just thought about this too. I was thinking about how, every NHL game can potentially get chippy and kind of crazy, and it seems like it's been, their tempers can flare at any moment. It doesn't matter. But what teams are you seeing that you go, oh no, there's a long-term potential for real rivalry feel between teams that are here out west with this Mammoth team?
Well, I think it's Colorado. I think in so many ways it's Colorado simply because of the geography and the fact that they're in the same division. I think a lot of us thought originally that it was going to be Vegas, but I think Vegas being outside the division kind of maybe gives the nod to a team like Colorado. Utah's played well against the Avalanche because they can play that speed game, right? And they've gotten really good goaltending from Karel Vejmelka. And I just think it sets up naturally, and it'll only get amplified after they play the Winter Classic next year out at Rice-Eccles. So, the way I feel right now, I feel it's definitely Colorado, but a lot of times in hockey, the rivalries guys are created in the postseason, so you get a lot of that too. So stay tuned. But yeah, the Colorado matchups, I think, are so far in the first, just under 2 years, those games have been terrific to watch, and just speed on speed. It's been a lot of fun.
Year two here in this market from Matt McConnell, who's got the TV duties. Of course, he and Dom Moore do an awesome job, and 2,000 plus of these calls for you across your illustrious career, Matt. And we appreciate that you join our program every once in a while and give us some of that insight. So thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Oh, anytime, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Matt.
Matt McConnell.
You're the best.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.